Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. I am here with Michael. He is a shaman who actually works with ayahuasca and other medicines. We're at his retreat, which is called Casa Galactica, which means galactic home. Is that right?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
So my Spanish is not that good, but still. um, he was gracious enough to just welcome me here, show me around. The way I found him was I actually just walked up to his retreat. And he's like, what do you want? I'm like, oh, I'm just here. I have a podcast and I would love to interview you. It's called Magic or Science. And he's like, yeah, 100%, man. I'm in. Let's do it. Just that just tells me that you really don't have anything to hide, man. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, you don't have anything to hide. Like, if I came and asked you and you asked me like 101 questions of like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, you just walk. I mean, the fact that no one's knocked at my door since 1982, I mean, makes it easier to recognise that something is that
Yeah.
something
Well, I'm old school.
it's great. I mean, it's great. My wife and I were just like, no one does that anymore. That was just so awesome. You just shot. And I was telling my wife yesterday, I was like, that was the highlight of my day. You like knocking on the door and asking to do the podcast. So I was just like, someone's coming all the way to find us and knock on a door to do a podcast. I'm just like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I don't need to think about it. I'm already in.
Thanks, man. That's actually awesome. I appreciate that. I don't know. I'm just old school, bro. I love to call people and talk to them versus just
Mhm.
text them. Like you two, I noticed when you were messaging me, you were just doing like the voice, which I
Mhm.
love.
Yeah.
Hey, this was meant to happen. Synchronicities. What do
Yes,
you think of
indeed.
that?
Well, I mean, the fact that you're here, we do want to talk about another synchronicity. That the fact that when you passed me your sticker for your podcast, and I
Uh-huh.
looked at it and I took it home and I just looked at it straight around. I was like, those are the exact same stars that we have in our own logo. And I was just showing you that when we were having lunch together before the
Yeah, you
conversation.
were.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So synchronicities. I don't know. I still can't explain it. That's why I started the podcast,
yeah.
just to learn more about it. Um,
I would say that from my understanding, synchronicities are a way of the universe or our higher selves is a reflection back to something that is occurring. Now, what's really interesting is that we can apply all sorts of meanings. We can apply all sorts of meanings to these synchronicities. So, for instance, just the synchronicity I've just talked about, I can see the synchronicity of the us having the same stars in the logo. I could be like, this means we're in competition. I shouldn't do this podcast. You could apply all sorts of negative meaning to that, which is really just like a reflection of trauma. So I think with the synchronicities, what I try to do when they arise is just be like, that's interesting,
yeah.
and try not to apply too much meaning to it, but just like enjoy the universe unraveling.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get into ayahuasca, man. We're in Peru. Um, this is fascinating stuff. It's been circling around the world. It's becoming very popular.
Hmm.
It's helped a lot of people. The United States government has it as a class one drug, so
Hmm.
it's completely legal. But then again, it cures people. So it's not a hook like modern medicine, where it's like antidepressants. You need to take it for like 20 years every day. This is it's a sacred ceremony that you do. I don't know, two times, three times, four times, and I guess there's healing. And one thing special about your retreat is you work with people and you integrate some Western, so you could call it psychotherapy, where you help them. It's not just the medicine; it's also you talk to them. There's a lot of healing too.
Hmm.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say, the difference to everyone listening between a drug and a plant medicine is a drug is often used to hide from ourselves, and a plant medicine is used to help see ourselves. So we use drugs to escape, and then we use plant medicines to start coming home to the truth of who we are. So yeah, in terms of like the Western approach, what we describe it as is trauma informed care. So we have trauma informed care at the heart of everything that we do, which really takes into account that anyone who comes to us, whether they're conscious or unconscious of this, may have experienced some trauma in their life. Also means that we see people as whole and complete, already healed, that there's nothing wrong with you, that may have just been some experiences in your life which is causing you to have a certain set of circumstances currently. So we work with a variety of different modalities and channeling and trauma-informed care, empowerment teachings, meditation. But really, the essence of what it is teaching people that the healer is actually within themselves. The healer is within you. And these plant medicines, all of the different container that we create with ayahuasca and the other alternative modalities in our retreats, it helps people to recognize that I can heal myself. This is the power of my own consciousness awakening upon itself, and actually the power is within me, rather than, when we have to go and see a doctor. And again, sometimes we have to go and see doctors, sometimes it's required, sometimes it's beneficial. But what happens in those environments and situations, we're looking for someone outside of ourselves to provide us with the answer. What we're here is creating a safe environment in our 10-day ayahuasca healing and evolution retreats, which creates a safe, trauma-informed container and environment that helps you come to your own conclusions, that helps you realize the truth of who you are, that helps you learn how to heal yourself. So that when you go back home to your own country, you're not relying upon us to be your healers. We're not your healers. We are here as guides in your own personal process for you to recognize that you're your own healer.
By the way, that's if you go back to your own country. I feel like a lot of people come here and they just want to stay, They do, I'm not saying they necessarily do ayahuasca, but man, Peru's nice, bro. I really like it. I'm already planning on coming back.
Yeah.
It's a super nice place. And I get what you mean. Like if you go back to your own country, it's you're gonna have the proper tools that you need. I know a lot of instances where people that have addictions, it stops their addictions. People that have traumatic experiences, it kind of stops that. I have a good friend. He does neuroscience, and he has like a neurofeedback machine, and he works with people with addictions too. They put it on and see what's going on, and then they have like I don't want to say electric shock, but it's magnetic shock. But like he's actually done ayahuasca himself in Peru. And I was like, hey, dude, what's going to happen? Because I've done it to my head and I meditated to see what the neurofeedback is. I was like, dude, what would happen if we did ayahuasca and he just had orgasms? Like, oh, I don't know, man, but I'm so up to try it. And I mean, I know there's been studies where it literally changes the way your brain functions. Something happens there. Science can't completely put their finger on it, but they can see that something happens before and after, or before, during, and after. What do you think that is?
Well, I think what's really interesting, I think, with the nature of this podcast as well, and science versus magic, is
Yeah. Magic or science?
Magic or science, right?
Technically, it is. Is it magic or science?
Is it magic or science? So that magic or science.
Yeah.
So I've got a chemistry degree. So I've got
Do
a
you?
medicinal chemistry degree. So before I came into this path, I've studied chemistry and I spent my whole life, or the first part of that life, trying to prove things right or wrong, trying to prove theses, trying to prove theories. So I'll get my degree, so I know what it's like to try and have to prove things. So when I came into this realm, into the plant spirit healing realm, my logical, rational mind couldn't make sense of all those things that were happening. So for me, a big part of my healing process has been: do I need to prove anything, or is my direct experience enough for me to have a healing process?
It's more than enough for you to have a healing process. But here's the thing: now that you have a retreat,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of people in the Western world, like face it, people with money, but
Mm-hmm.
they also have a lot of serious issues.
Mm-hmm.
They need they're not as spiritual as you. They've heard about ayahuasca. They've probably heard it from their friend, their neighbor, their neighbor's friend that they went out with. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, it helped me, but they're on the fence about it.
yeah.
Those people need a little more. You know what I mean? I personally need a little more too, because I'm a person that questions everything.
So for me, what I can say is that I can speak from my own experience. So my own experience was that I was heavily addicted to drugs, alcohol, substances from about 12 years old. Was suicidal. Never thought that I would make it to 30 years old.
Since 12?
Yes, from drinking and then getting into marijuana and then harder drugs. Never thought that I would make it till 30 years old. Was suicidal, but never really wanted to kill myself. So I thought I would just kind of just burn out with partying. And yeah, I was just really didn't have any hope for my life.
But you
And
became a chemist, so there was some hope subconsciously.
I was completely high the whole time, just completely on drugs.
Then you must be very intelligent, bro.
I have done quite well to get very good results whilst being high. I think that might be one of my superpowers, if any.
Hey, I'll be, hey, helping people is your new
Yeah.
superpower.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
So for me, when I drank ayahuasca in the very first weekend retreat that I said, I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I stopped doing drugs.
Holy shit.
I stopped all of these different things. Now, I've drank since, and I've smoked cigarettes since, and I smoked marijuana a few times since. But that was the process of me actually like still healing the depths of the addiction. But I never did hard drugs again. I was addicted to ketamine, cocaine.
Like when you mean addicted, like you needed this stuff.
I was high every day.
that's a fucking addiction, bro.
So it
That's
was
a problem.
so it was either drink, weed, alcohol. I would go out partying for 3, 4 days at a time, between 2 and 4 days at a time without any sleep. Doing grams and grams of cocaine, grams and grams of ketamine. Every time I tried to stop, I couldn't. I drank ayahuasca, and my whole life shifted. My whole life shifted. Um, within 1 month, I went traveling to India, to Nepal, studying Reiki, yoga to help integrate these experiences, and then I found myself coming here to Peru. Because I wanted to study of the indigenous traditions of the Shipibo tradition to learn more about ayahuasca to go deeper into my own healing
And
process.
Shipibo, is that like the north?
Shipibo is where you're kind of going
Oh,
in a few
that's
days.
Iquitos. That's the
So
jungle,
I was
ladies
in
and gentlemen.
Iquitos, yeah. So I learned, did an apprenticeship, an ayahuasca retreat, went into the jungle for extended periods of time, fasting, isolating, learning from the plants, learning how to facilitate ayahuasca ceremonies, learning how to hold ayahuasca ceremonies, learning how to lead ayahuasca ceremonies, and going through this absolutely intense healing process, which at the bottom of this was ritual abuse, sexual abuse, violent abuse, complete loads of PTSD that was undiagnosed, that was completely undiagnosed, which was at the source of the addiction. So no wonder every time that I was trying to stop being high, all of this trauma and pain would come up. But I was never told that there was anything that was there. I was never told that there was maybe something undiagnosed. I was just told there was something wrong with me. I was just told I was a drug addict. Just told by my family that I was no good, along the way of all these types of
Yeah,
things.
I've had that too, dude. Because I told you I grew up in the Soviet Union background.
Mhm.
Even though I didn't really have like drug issues, my parents always told me I was a fuck up. Just and they're like, you're stupid, you can't do that, and stuff like that. And like, I think they just, with their limited beliefs and ideology of how to raise kids, they told me that. I mean, my parents love me and I love my parents, but bro, when you hear that so many times as a kid, it seeps into your subconscious.
It has an effect, no
It
matter
has a
how
big time,
strong.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it has a big time effect. But you know what? Later on in life, they told me that like, oh, we love you. We're very proud of you. Even though I'm not married, I'm kind of like went off of the beating path, and I'm like traveling the world and having a blast. They kind of accepted that and they love me for that. I mean, but it took us all kind of while to get there. But that stuff bothers you, man.
What in terms of
In terms of you like growing up and being like a functioning adult, like your parents constantly telling you that
yes,
you're a fuck up.
Yeah, and it's that's just one of the part of the plant medicines of going through that process of like healing, is going through and recognizing all those ideas and beliefs, which is other people's traumas perpetuated outwards and not actually anything to do with me. It's actually to do with the people who are saying the things.
Yeah,
When you can take that power back, when you can change and transform. We were talking about this over lunch.
yeah, yeah.
You change the vibration of your being. You change the neural pathways. You change your entire being when you start to believe that you're infinitely unconditionally loving, that you're actually a beautiful being, that you're actually here to do something beautiful,
Lem-
rather than this continuation of saying that you're no good.
Let me stop you there. You said you change your neural pathways. There's actually science. This is the science part of it that
Hmm.
proves that your neural pathways are changed or being changed as you're doing ayahuasca when
Hmm.
you're under the medicine.
Yeah.
Um, Literally, what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is your brain is reprogramming or reconnecting itself. Something messed up the wiring, and it's putting itself back together. Would you
Yes.
agree?
Yes. And then how that manifests is, you might be in a situation where something might have triggered you, and then all of a sudden you're in the same situation and you're like, that doesn't trigger me anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I explain that? Well, I did an ayahuasca ceremony and something shifted and changed, and my physiological reaction to the same situation is different. How do you explain that?
And psychological reaction.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain that. Yeah, you changed, bro. You just changed as a person.
And then for me, with regards to addictions, that just overnight after trying for several years, many years, just thinking that I was going to die from a drug overdose, overnight from going to one ayahuasca ceremony, the first one was where it kind of happened in this situation. I was like, great, I don't need these drugs anymore. My life's changed. How do you explain that?
I think if I could explain it, it was probably the pain stopped inside of you.
Hmm.
Maybe you
Yeah.
had to feed that pain. You had to escape reality.
Hmm.
But now you're probably, I would say, you're born again.
Hmm.
And you have a new sense of love for reality, and
Hmm.
you don't need to escape it by feeding yourself substances.
Hmm.
Could I say that?
Yeah, yeah. And for me, what it was is that I was recognizing that what was actually at the core of the addictions was a lack of unconditional love. And I went through the ayahuasca ceremony of being born, coming out, being lying on my mother's chest and feeling unconditional love. And I was actually communicating with my mother's dead spirit at the time, and I was seeing this whole thing. And my mother was ill all of her life before she finally died. So there's a big trauma as well for me. But what I recognized was is that that unconditional love was what I was chasing with all these synthetic experiences. And when I realized, I'm like, oh, I'm chasing the wrong thing. These
Yeah.
synthetic experiences are like a synthetic version of what I'm trying to look for that doesn't even come close. Simultaneously, I also recognized that my whole life that I was living was completely out of alignment. I was living in the rat race, trying to create success with money and a job that was, I was good at it, doing energy recruitment, but I was still heavily addicted, and it wasn't actually my true passion. Passion was music, and I had these experiences I could see, and I felt the experience of change that I was going to be helping people. I didn't know what that even meant. Like when I felt like I was going to be, that my life was going to be changing, I was going to be helping people. I told you, a chemistry degree, this doesn't make logic. This is not reason. How does this make sense? I've lost my mind. And what I realized is that my mind was actually lost in the life that I was living previously. It's not that I lost my mind coming here, it's that I was lost before. And then I found more of the truth of who I am through this process of
And
healing
you
and
found
evolution.
passion.
Yes. I had passion for music and drugs before. I have passion for much more things. And like the biggest passion for me is being able to help people, to be able to build our business, to create a sanctuary for people to be able to come and heal so that people don't have to go through this suffering for extended periods of time, that people can be given the tools, to be shown the tools so that people can start building a life that's in alignment. Beyond all that suffering that we've all experienced plenty of through many, many lifetimes, it's a time for us to start coming home to that unconditional love and
Yeah.
compassion again.
Yeah, I agree, man. Yeah. And he was just showing me his new place that he's building. It's super nice. It's in Pisac. Pisac, Pisac. This town is, oh man, it's amazing, dude. I love it. I love it. Um, and that's actually a really nice place, dude. The view is nice.
Yeah.
Everything else is nice. And you said to me earlier during lunch that ayahuasca is just another tool. So you have different tools in your belt that you can help people. Because you said some people that don't want to take psychedelic substances like ayahuasca, there's other ways to help them too. Like me, I told you I have a digestive issue. You're like, oh, you should take this, and it'll help you purge your stomach, and you'll feel better.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So the way that we frame and work with plant medicines is they're powerful catalysts for change when, in our experience, put in the right container, which is the recognition of the power of your own consciousness. It helps to see things more quickly. Like yourself, you're meditating 2 hours a day. You spend a lot of time meditating, and to get to that point in your life where you're able to sit there, do that, have those realizations. Someone who's perhaps from a traumatized family or is just kind of like coming through addictions, it's not going to necessarily have
Yeah.
that kind of level of discipline or ability to get to those states of consciousness with meditation. So this is where plant medicines can really come in, and it's not just for people with trauma, but for people who are wanting to have that big catalytic breakthrough. Because once you start being in those awakened states, there's deeper, more understanding. It's continuous awakening, continuous understanding. But what we work with trauma healing sessions, intuitive sessions, channeling sessions, intuitive brand and designing, which is helping people to also come, and when they're coming out, to step into service to others or whatever work they're doing, helping to cultivate their calling, to discover their calling. So we work in a variety of different ways, but one of the modalities that I work with a lot with people is my online trauma healing sessions, which helps take people into the pains and the sufferings in the body, into the somatic stored energy in the body, helping people to uncover repressed memories, to release trauma that's stored, and then working with the same Icaros, which is a healing song from the ayahuasca ceremonies, sing those multidimensionally over Zoom calls, and then people have these big transformative awakenings as they're able to release those energies from the body, being metaphysically handheld through that process. So many people just work with me in a situation where they'll work with me for a few months. I just had a client yesterday who just finished working with me for 12 sessions, and she found me from being on a podcast, and she said she wrote the podcast host and said thanked the podcast host so much because
Nice.
she said for me going on the show and connecting with me, her life had completely changed.
Wow.
And that was just from working online. And for her, she's just like, I don't want to come to Peru. It's not for me. It's not what I would need. And that's like, great. Ayahuasca is not for everybody. So we have a multitude of different ways that we work for people. And because anyone out there is listening, is like, how can you help me? Just go to our website, casagalactica.com, book a free consultation, and we'll just talk with you, no obligation, about how we can help you. And then you can choose, if that's relevant for you or not.
I'll leave your info.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
from my like personal experience, dude, you're super nice. Like honestly, like very welcoming. I'm in your house. You're just a super nice guy, dude. And like when you open the door, like you're just like, yeah, I'll love to do it, bro. No problem, let's do it. And I was like, that's actually really nice, man. 'Cause some people are like have a guard up, you know. if you just show up to their house. But thanks, thanks for
No.
that. One thing that's been coming up to me, maybe you know this because you're a healer and a practitioner now. I mean, you seem like a very healthy individual mentally. But some people that become healers, um, they develop egos,
Mhm.
big egos, unhealthy egos. Let's say they help a couple people or they have a mystical experience. Suddenly they think they're the chosen one or they're special. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's just unresolved trauma. It's unresolved trauma
Yeah.
expressing itself in a different way. So that could be the same person who's in the office in the sales and is like, I'm the top of the world, I'm the sales champion.
Yeah.
And then, part of that process, again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that expressing itself. If someone's going through that process as a healer, to have that coming up and have that process, not something necessarily wrong with that. But what's the difficult part is if you're not keeping yourself in check, then that can negatively impact the clients and the patients and other people that you're working with. So the
Yeah.
first thing to recognize is that true healing only occurs from one's self-recognition of oneself as the infinite creator. Everyone only heals themselves. So all of the work that we do, we're helping you to get in contact with your higher self, with the truth of who you are, whether it be in our online sessions or plant medicines. Everyone here is in collaboration to help you recognize the truth of who you are as the infinite creator, creation, oneness, all things. From that vibration, that heals all wounds. Now, you could say it's like, oh, like Michael and Jamie are great healers. So healers, in the sense is, people think that healers is someone doing something to someone.
Yeah.
What we see that is, it's more like a mirror. Rather than it being something who's doing something to someone, it's a mirror for us to help you see yourself clearly. And with that reflection, you can make choices that are more aligned for you. You can change, again, and this can be physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual changes. But the reflection is all that we provide. And with that reflection, the choice is up to you.
Yeah. That which is a
Yeah,
practitioner.
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me.
yeah.
Have you ever seen people though, like put their hands on someone and just heal them?
Well, we do hands-on healing with people, but it's not us that's doing it. It's just our hands that are vehicles for different energies to move through it. So
Yeah.
how can I take credit for that?
That's a great way to answer that question. Yeah.
Okay, my mother should probably take credit for it because she birthed me. They're her hands.
There. Well, that's very noble of you to say. Yeah. Well, what I mean is like some people will be like, I can do this. My way is the only way. Like I've actually come across people like that, and like honestly, I just don't want to talk to them.
Here's what I would say to anyone who's listening out there who's going to healer. This is my experience and this is my advice that I give to people. A healer should be someone who's empowering you to recognize the truth of who you are. They should be giving you the tools and the reflections and the insights, or helping you recognize those insights for yourself about how you can heal yourself. So anytime any guru starts saying like, I'm your connection to God, or like I'm your connection to oneness, which is kind of, we go into dive into the whole kind of like outdated spirituality / religion kind of thing, where we have like gurus versus and kind of like preachers and things like that, which like the real truth in our experience is that direct connection that no one can take anything away. There's no middleman between you and yourself.
Between you and source.
Exactly. So that should always be coming back to that. So red flags are anyone who's saying that like, give me $60 and I'll heal you. And it's like, okay, or having red flags in situations where it's like, if you do this, then you're going to get this. Or if you don't do this, then you're going to be bad. And it's like, hold on, it sounds a little bit like my parents again. Are we going down the
Yeah.
same road again?
Yeah, that's
So just be
religion.
aware. Trust yourself wherever you go. There's plenty of people out there. There's no one path. Anyone who tells you there's one path, in my experience, is incorrect.
I agree with you
Because
100%.
everyone has a different path. This is why we offer so many different things. Because plant medicine is not for everyone. Our online work's not for everyone. For yourself, you love doing podcasts in person with people.
Yeah.
And some other people like doing it remote. There's so many different paths to everything.
I've had a lot of people, more popular people, tell me let's do Ramon. I was just like, nah, I just don't want to, man. Because I want to meet the person. I want to just see them,
Yeah.
feel them out,
Yeah.
have lunch with them,
Yeah.
have a conversation, and then jump on the podcast like we're doing. Because right now there's no uncomfortableness. It's
Yeah.
just me talking, dude.
Yeah.
And I actually really like your place, dude. I like the view too.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's nice.
Well, I have to say, someone showing up at the door and saying, "Do you want to do a podcast and I'll buy you lunch?" I'm like, I'm definitely all in. So I really appreciate the lunch and getting to know each other before. And I'm really enjoying being here in person as well. I can
Thank you,
definitely
brother.
I can feel the energy and the essence of what you create as a safe space for people to talk.
Yeah.
So really, really great job.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
I don't really have an agenda. I just want to understand what's going on. Can you tell me a little more about ayahuasca, just so I can understand? Like, what's the origin of it? Like you said, going down the rabbit hole earlier. like
Yeah.
where it came from.
Hmm.
Because here's the thing, from my understanding, it came from the Amazon jungle,
Yes.
and there's thousands of plants in the Amazon jungle, and somehow someone down the line put these two plants together, and
Hmm.
they're able to help heal people, and
Hmm.
which is now known as ayahuasca. Which the chance of that happening is like one in a couple million.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing to recognize here is that in Peru, where we are, ayahuasca is 100% legal. So this is one of the reasons why we live and work here, is because people come and work with us. You don't have to worry about getting yourself in trouble or doing something illegal. So
Yeah.
we're in a place that it's actually part of the national heritage and culture, because it did originate, at least in Peru, in the Peruvian Amazon. So there's other places in the world where ayahuasca is as well, but we're in Peru, and I'll speak about the Peruvian experience. When you start thinking about countries, they're just lines on maps. So we'll just talk about the Amazon rainforest here. So yeah, there's two plants. There's the ayahuasca vine, and there's the chacruna plant. This is the traditional, most pure way of creating the medicine. It's the most safest way. There are different analogs of this that people make in different ways, but there's problems with some of those different analogs physiologically, and they can be dangerous in some senses. So we work with the most pure version of the mixture. The ayahuasca vine, and this is kind of when we go into the science part again now. So the ayahuasca vine is an MAOI inhibitor, or part of it is an MAOI inhibitor, monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Somebody who doesn't know what that does, part of what that does is that the neurotransmitters in the brain, you've got like dopamine, serotonin, I can never say the other one, norepinephrine.
Norepinephrine.
There
Yeah,
we
yeah,
go.
yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, yeah,
Someone
yeah,
should
yeah.
rename it.
I mean, yeah, they should call it Nancy or something.
So yeah, we have these different neurotransmitters, and the MAOI inhibitor stops those neurotransmitters from being reabsorbed. So this is why if anyone's taken an SSRI, which has the same function, or any other MAOI inhibitors, it's doing the same thing as what ayahuasca is doing. You can get what's called serotonin syndrome, where there's too much of those neurotransmitters in the brain because they're not reabsorbed, and that can have serotonin toxic shock syndrome in that sense. Simultaneously, the other thing what's happens is that MAOI prevents the DMT, dimethyltryptamine, within the chacruna plant from being reabsorbed. So, as well as it's stopping the neurotransmitters from being reabsorbed, it stops the DMT from being reabsorbed. So then you go into an orally active DMT journey for anywhere from kind of like 4 to 6 hours, guided by the magic of the intelligence of the ayahuasca vine, as well as chacruna, but the ayahuasca vine, that's why it's called ayahuasca, because ayahuasca is a teacher plant which navigates us through this realm, taking us through repressed memories, taking us through different portals to different worlds of the unconscious, to getting into more contact with different spirit guides, into our higher self, into non-dual realms or one consciousness realms. Throughout this process as well, there's a whole set of symptoms which is called purging. So as we go through those symptoms, we may vomit or sweat or cry or get more in touch with different
Poop
emotions.
yourself sometimes.
Yes, you can do, but most people make it to the bathroom. But
Oh, okay.
but
So when you're on this substance or
mhm,
medicine,
yeah.
you are consciously aware. It's not like you're completely gone. It's not like Udu Banda where you're like zoned out completely. You can make it to the bathroom.
Yes. So the first thing is when we work with people, part of the trauma-informed care is that we start dosing people with smaller amounts to begin with, and then we increase the dose and give everyone option about how much that you wish to drink. So we're not making people going in and having this like, great, we're going to just do everything in one go, and then go into this kind of uncontrollable experience, which can happen when people are given more medicine than is required. So a big part of the process of the work we do here is safety, integrity, trauma-informed care, which means that we enable people to go into that experience in a relatively gentle way. So when you go through that experience, sometimes when you're in that altered state, it can be a little bit difficult to walk. So that's why we're able to help people to the bathroom if you need to. We're also available on help throughout the whole ceremony. We're also available afterwards, and we have our centers. If you see just right in the corner, and everyone has walkie-talkies in their room as well.
Right. And what I liked is you said you only do small groups, maximum 4 people.
Maximum 4 people.
So and there's you and your wife, so you can really give those people the attention and care that they need.
Yes. I mean, it's like you're saying as you're coming over to the house. It's like you wanna get to know someone, and you want to have that environment. If you're in a group of 20 people, how well am I going to know 20 people
Not
in
really
10 days?
too well, dude.
You know?
And
But
if I'm in trouble, you're not really gonna be able to pay attention.
exactly. So
Yeah.
with 4 people, there's a really, really deep connection that we make with people to help people really transform their lives. So to summarize that, there's a lot of purging of toxic emotions, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual emotions, and there's a recognition of the truth of who you are coming into awareness. Like these awarenesses of like the magic of the universe, awareness that for me, I recognize that the institutions, my work, everyone that told me this, that, and the other, I was living my life within a box, which is basically other people's beliefs.
Yeah,
I could see outside of that box, and then I was able to make these different choices, which is what led me to be sitting here in this chair today talking to you.
that's awesome, dude. Hey, at least you're living your best life.
Mhm.
And you need to help other people realize that.
That is our passion. My wife Jamie and I, we're here. Jamie's an amazing intuitive
I met her too.
medium.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's great, awesome. My best friend, love of my life, greatest teacher. She's
That's awesome, bro.
fantastic.
And she knows what afternoon means.
Yeah.
That's an inside joke. So he's like, "Hey, just come by in the afternoon." I'm like, just to make sure." That's 12 o'clock, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, British people.
Midday.
Yeah, midday.
That's
There we
it.
go. Midday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Midday in Britain is 12 o'clock. In
Okay.
America, it's any point in the day.
Yeah, it is.
So we were confused what time we were meeting.
Yeah.
I told my wife about that. She was laughing because I had
Good.
that same conversation with her
Did
the
you?
other day before. Yeah.
Good. Actually, one of the more humble people I talked to. Would you consider yourself a shaman?
I don't use that word.
No.
No. I mean,
Is that like more of a title?
I think a lot of people go around calling themselves shamans,
Uh huh.
and for me, it just has so many connotations with that. For me, I call myself a trauma-informed plant spirit healer. So that means that I work with plant spirits, and I consider that and work with people with trauma in a safe way. Um, the word here, which is traditionally used, is curandero. So if
Curandero.
curandero, which
I've
translates
heard that.
Spanish to healer. So if I was gonna identify more with a traditional word, it would be curandero. But really, for me, it's ceremony leader and trauma-informed plant spirit healer, which I feel like is really more about what it is, because I think people get lost in terms of what am I here. The description of what I'm here to do is really to help people through trauma. It's not about me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. So one thing I noticed, apparently a lot of people say ayahuasca is like a female medicine, and then there's the other one, the cactus, which is
Mhm.
more of the male mount.
Yes.
Can you tell me the difference between the two and like what the benefits are?
Yeah, well, so my experience is mainly with ayahuasca. I've drank San Pedro or
San Pedro,
Wachuma
there we go.
once.
Wachuba.
Yes, I drank that once, and yeah, for me, ayahuasca. A lot of people do seem to have this like feminine versus masculine experience. It's not really my direct experience so much, but this is kind of maybe more for another conversation type. We go down another
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
hole, but
rabbit hole.
I'll share about what we do and the way that we work. We work with ayahuasca, but we work in the Noya Rao lineage of curanderismo.
There's a lineage.
So the lineage, and what we're talking about the lineage here is, and it's not a human lineage that we're talking about, although there are many humans who work with this tree. Noya Rao is a tree from the Amazon rainforest, which is an enlightened tree that has bioluminescent leaves and is a source of unconditional love and a direct connection to creation. We also work a lot with the blue lotus flower as well. So these two plant spirits are our teachers, so that when you're in the ayahuasca realm, these energies are very much more present in the sense that these are what are guiding the ceremonies. These plant teachers are what are guiding the ceremonies. And ayahuasca is like the operating system for us. And then those are the programs that we're loading into that, if we want to use that type of
Hey,
analogy.
that's going to the matrix now.
So as we start looking at, so ayahuasca obviously has its own medicine. It is a big part of what we do, and it's the big part of that realm. But what we're working with, and this is how you learn in indigenous traditions, in the Shipibo tradition, is that the plant deities, the plant teachers, those are the ones that are guiding the ceremony.
Okay.
So Noya Rao is very much a female spirit. Blue Lotus, my wife and I have experienced it as both feminine and masculine. So a lot of people call ayahuasca grandmother.
Grandmother, there we
Yeah.
go.
I think what it is whatever your direct experience is, that's exactly how it's showing up for you, because it has something to teach you.
Okay. Got it. And as far as the Amazon forest,
Mhm.
that's a super interesting place. That's where the ayahuasca comes from.
Mhm.
And the origin. How did these people realize to put these two together? I'm just curious.
Yes. Yes. So there's like, as you were mentioning before, I'm glad you brought that back up. There's so many plants in the Amazon.
It's
You know, there's
just
so
a
many-
lot,
so
bro.
many
I mean,
plants.
imagine, yeah, it's a fort.
I think the only thing we can really say is it wasn't really by luck. It wasn't
Hell
really
no,
by
it wasn't.
it wasn't really by
And
chance.
if you say if it's by chance, you have to be a moron. To
Yeah.
put, if you ever go to the Amazon forest, I've seen pictures, dude. There's like thousands of plants,
Yes.
and you put two different random plants together, and you get ayahuasca, and suddenly it just helps people relieve their addiction and their pain and suffering.
Yeah.
It's not a chance.
So there's the one of the theories behind this, which I tend to agree on some level, is that because there's many people who are working with the tobacco plant,
What's it called? The Wachumar?
the mapacho,
Mapacho.
but then you start going down, it's like which came first? It's like, who told people about the mapacho plant to smoke the mapacho plant?
Yeah.
So you start, how far do you start going down in this?
You mean like what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, so who started then smoking the mapacho? So people were smoking mapacho, but how did they know about to smoke the mapacho plant? So we started going
Yeah.
down that rabbit hole a little bit.
And people have told me in ceremonies when they do ayahuasca, the shaman or the healer, they do mapacho, and if there's like something stuck within you, they'll just blow it or try to suck it out.
Mhm.
Is that like traditional?
Traditional uses, yes. Traditional ceremonies use mapacho. We don't use any smoke in our ceremonies
Okay.
for several reasons. One, I was highly addicted to smoking, and I stopped my path. And then people told me if I wanted to be a curandero that I had to smoke mapacho, and I got addicted to it again. And then I had a different experience and learned directly that it's not necessary.
Yeah, nothing. I don't think any of it is.
It's a tool again, and we've learned to use it without smoke. And I could just tell you from my experience, we have a lot of people who come with addictions. You start blowing smoke on people who have addictions, who's just trying to like do that.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So we have a clean environment in terms of smoke free. Again, nothing wrong with the work they do with mapacho. Mapacho is a very sacred plant. It's just not necessary for us. And for me, I value my lungs. My lungs are still healing from like 15, 20 years of however like chain smoking,
But I don't mind you blowing Palo Santo on me, which I love the smell of. That it smells good, man.
Yeah.
And does it have a mystical element to it too? Because I use it in my room a lot for positive energy.
So I think this is kind of like wrap everything up into what we've just been talking over the last few minutes. Is the plants have spirits. The plants behind us have spirits. They're a physical being. They're also a metaphysical being. They have spirit and an energy. So with mapacho, that also has that. So the smoke is like the physical element of that, but the intelligence of it is what's communicating, and it's the intelligence of the mapacho. It could have been the way that the ayahuasca two plants were told to the curanderos or the shamans or whatever you want to call them, who were smoking the mapachos, the tobacco intelligence told them, mix this plant with this plant and bring this together, and then we had the ayahuasca brew. We could also say that there were different energies. You could also say that there was different guides and beings and off-world beings that were a part of that process. But to keep it grounded, let's just say it was mapacho. It doesn't really matter whether it was. What we can say is that an intelligence that wasn't human created a pathway of transmission that intelligence was able to be brought through. Same with the Palo Santo that you have in your room. So when you're doing the Palo Santo, invite you just to start communicating with the Palo Santo. Ask to show you if it has anything intuitively. Is it anywhere on my body that perhaps is feeling some stuck energy? Why am I feeling this stuck energy? How can I heal myself from that? And you start working with these different plants. This is what the work that we do. And we have all of those different things. Like I've shown you the place where we have the saunas and we have all these different plants. And I started telling you about the digestives. These plants have an intelligence that can help heal trauma, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And when we can learn to tune into the consciousness of these plants, we're able to accelerate our own healing path and growth.
Nice. And I feel a little more comfortable around you because you're a chemist. Yeah, but that feels a little better because you have that Western common sense, not common sense, but we would call it a Western knowledge of chemistry. And you're also a plant medicine healer. And you've studied in the Amazon forest for years. So,
Yes.
yeah. So you know your stuff, man. And by the way, this is not scripted at all. I'm just throwing stuff at him, and he's able to answer me. Yeah, man, that's pretty much all the questions. I actually have one more question. I always ask this question at the end of every conversation I have with people. What would you say from someone that came from pain and suffering would be one thing that you would give advice to people to help them out in their life? Let's just say they're in pain and suffering. They're stuck in the same mindset and the same loop.
Yeah.
What would you be able to tell these people?
I would say the sooner that you start to look at what the cause of that suffering is, the sooner that you start to move towards what the root of that is, the sooner that you'll find freedom.
So, yeah, the key to healing would be awareness. The first sign. Just be aware.
Yeah. So yeah, be aware of what that may be, because when someone's in pain and suffering, especially someone's in the depths of addiction, and society, it's definitely changed over the last 10 years or so, but society and the way that we're brought up, especially in the UK, is, we don't talk about our feelings, or, you kind of repress things, you don't push things down, or you distract things, or like, oh, I've just got to get my mind off something, or something sad
Yeah.
happened, I just got to keep my mind busy, or like someone died in the family, or like, well, just got to keep myself busy. And it's like, the invitation is to whatever that cause for that suffering is, recognize that if you're addicted, if you're sad and depressed, I can guarantee that that's not your natural state of being.
No, there's nobody's natural state of being.
Exactly. So the question is why? What happened to me? Why am I expressing myself like this? Why is these traumas expressing themselves through me? Because it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's just perhaps a blockage to something of an awakening that is coming up. So these are the symptoms. Like without the addictions that I went through, I would have never had the motivation to come on this path. And again, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have that motivation, if I didn't have the death of my mother in the family, it would have been a different path for me, more than likely. So the recognition is whatever's showing up, that pain, that suffering, that anxiety, you can on some level, if you want to, turn towards that as a gift, a recognition that that is a portal for something to change and shift in your life. Get help. Get help through that process. You don't have to come to us for help. There's so many different helps, so I highly recommend us.
And here's the thing, it's okay to ask for help.
It's absolutely,
It's actually, I encourage people to ask for help.
Yes.
Like I've learned, as a man, I grew up in that like a machismo, like
Yes.
macho environment. It's not okay to cry. Honestly, if I'm sad and I'm by myself,
yeah,
it's totally okay to cry, bro.
yeah. I mean, I would say it's
like,
better.
I mean, you just get it out. I mean, if someone tries to hurt me, of course I'm gonna punch him in the face. It's not like being a girl, but like if I'm by myself, something happens. Like if I'm sad or something. I mean, first I would just meditate, but
Yeah.
like if something, it's okay. Like at movie theaters, when I go and it's a sad moment at the ending, I cry, dude. I actually cry, and I don't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hide it, but it took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
So it's always okay to ask for help.
Absolutely, and then, like help has so many different ways. Like as I've mentioned, there's so many different ways that we help people, but there's just like look at where you are right now. You don't have to have money to find help. You can go straight away to finding a support group around. You can start calling out for help for a friend. There's different programs and support structures. But the first thing is just recognizing that I need help and surrounding oneself with people who've already gone through those first stages of that path.
Yeah.
It's not weakness. It's actually going to accelerate you on your own path so that you can have your own unique expression of what it is here, so that you're going to be able to piggyback off the work that other people have been doing. You don't have to go through all of those years of being in the Amazon rainforest or whatever it may be to have to be able to access that experience from someone.
Nice.
Or someone who's, been a trauma therapist for 20 years, and you go there and they say, like, basically, if you do these different things, and you're going to change your life, and you do them and it works, and you're like, okay, great, what's next?
Yeah,
So
or you can
ask for
just reach
help.
out to Mike. I'll leave his info. Casa Galactica.
Correct.
Right?
Thank you very much.
I mean, like some people just don't want to do it, dude. It's like going through a tour agency versus figuring out all this shit on your own. Like literally, that's what I'm going through right now.
yeah.
Like, do you really want to go through all the steps and maybe it not work, or you just go through the tour agency, pay an extra few bucks,
Yeah.
and it's a peace of mind.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Well, yeah, I feel like that's a good analogy that you invest in yourself, you invest in that path. But I'd also say as well, for people who are interested, or if this conversation has been interesting, or you think that something I've shared has been interesting, if you go to our website, you can sign up to our mailing list. And if you sign up to the mailing list, you'll get a free 5-hour Fundamentals of Healing Trauma workshop,
I'm gonna
where I
set it up.
take people through that process of healing trauma, things that you can start action in your life without spending any money, that you can just start changing and transforming your life. Plus, we were talking about communicating, connecting with plants. My wife's also got an amazing beginner's handbook to strengthening your intuition. It's also in there free as well.
To strengthen your intuition.
Yes, so you
I
can start
actually want to get into that because I'm in sales.
Yes,
It would benefit me immensely.
yes. So
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, he's gonna start his own podcast soon.
there we go. It's out.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Really
No,
appreciate it. It's been an
thank you,
absolute
brother.
pleasure.
Take care.